I was 26, burned out, and honestly a little lost. The kind of lost where you're doing everything society told you to do. You got the degree. You got the job. You show up on time. You smile in meetings. You contribute to your 401k because HR told you to on day one, and you never thought to question it. And yet every Monday morning that alarm goes off, and there's this heavy, sinking feeling in your chest before your eyes even open. This half second where your brain is still peaceful and then reality crashes in like a wavework. Traffic, emails, the same conversation with the same manager about the same quarterly goals that somehow never change even though the year does. And you sit at your desk, eating the same sad lunch, staring at a screen thinking, is this it? Is this the whole thing? 40 more years of this, and then what? A retirement party with a sheet cake and a handshake. And I remember the specific Friday that broke something open in me. I'd just gotten my paycheck, direct deposit, looked good on paper, and by Sunday night it was already mostly gone. Rent took the biggest chunk, then the car payment, then the insurance, then the student loan minimum, then groceries, then the 3 times I ordered food because I was too tired to cook. And I sat there staring at my bank account with like $190 left until the next pay period, thinking I make decent money. Where does it go? Why does it always go? And that question sat with me for weeks. Not in a dramatic way, just quietly in the background like a song you can't get out of your head. And one night, I'm lying in bed scrolling through my phone the way you do when you're too tired to sleep but too wired to actually rest. And I come across this random video. Some guy talking about dividend investing. And I almost kept scrolling because it sounded boring. It sounded like something my dad would watch. But something made me stop. Something about the way he explained it. He said, imagine getting a paycheck from a company just for owning a small piece of it. No work required. No showing up. No performing. Just owning. And something in my brain clicked in a way it hadn't clicked before. Because I'd heard of investing. Everybody's heard of investing. Buy low, sell high. Stocks go up, stocks go down. I knew the general shape of it, but I'd never heard anyone explain it like that. Like a system that pays you whether you show up or not. And the next morning I woke up and instead of dreading my day, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and I started reading. Actually reading, not scrolling. Reading. About dividend ETFs, about yield, about compounding, about what happens when you stop spending dividends and start reinvesting them. And the more I read, the more I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, which was hope. Not the generic kind. Not the motivational poster kind, but specific hope, mathematical hope, the kind where you can actually see the path. And I had $10,000 in my savings account, 2 years of skipping things, skipping the new iPhone when mine still worked fine, skipping the weekend trips my friends kept taking, skipping the nice apartment for the cheaper one a few blocks away. $10,000 sitting there doing nothing, earning maybe $40 a year in a high-yield savings account if I was lucky. And I remember sitting with that number for a few days. Because $10,000 felt like a lot to me at the time. It felt like security. It felt like a cushion. And the idea of putting it somewhere and watching it move up and down on a chart was genuinely terrifying. But I also did the math, and the math was simple. If I bought a dividend ETF with a 4% yield, that $10,000 would pay me $400 a year. $400 that I didn't have to work for. $400 that would show up regardless of whether I had a good week or a bad week. Regardless of whether my manager was in a good mood. Regardless of traffic or weather or any of the 1,000 things that affect a regular paycheck. Just $400. Quiet and consistent. And I know $400 sounds small. I know it. I knew it then. My coworker definitely thought it was small because I made the mistake of mentioning it at lunch one day. And he looked at me like I'd told him I was investing in rocks. He literally said, and I quote, "Bro, that's like one nice dinner." And he laughed and went back to his food, and I just closed my laptop and said nothing, because there was nothing to say, not yet. And I opened my brokerage app that evening, and I bought the ETF. Something boring, something with a long track record, something my coworker had definitely never heard of. And then I did something that felt almost physically difficult, which was, I did not touch it. I watched the first dividend hit a few months later, $97. And my first instinct was to transfer it to my checking account, to spend it, to feel it. Because $97 is real money. $97 is groceries. $97 is a tank of gas. But instead, I clicked the button that said reinvest, and I watched my share count go up by a small, almost embarrassingly small amount. And I smiled at my phone in a way that probably looked insane to anyone watching. Because nothing had really changed yet. I was still going to work the next morning. I was still sitting in the same meetings. I was still eating lunch at my desk. But something had shifted internally. Something about the direction, like I'd turned a corner I didn't even know existed. And I kept going, every month adding whatever I could from my paycheck. Not everything. I wasn't eating rice and beans in the dark. I still had a life. I still went out sometimes. Still took one trip a year. But I was intentional. I was paying attention in a way I hadn't been before. And the months turned into a year, and the year turned into 2. And by the time I was 29, I had $50,000 in that boring ETF, most of it from my own contributions. Some of it from dividends I'd reinvested over and over without ever spending a dollar. And $50,000 at 4% pays $2,000 a year. $2,000. Which doesn't sound life-changing until you actually map it to your life, until you realize that's your electric bill for 12 months. That's your internet. That's a long weekend somewhere nice with money left over. That's real. That's tangible. And I remember doing that math on a Sunday morning at my kitchen table with coffee going cold next to me, and realizing that for the next year, every time I flipped a light switch in my apartment, every time I opened the fridge, every time I charged my phone, something else was paying for it, not my salary, my shares. And I told nobody because there was nobody to tell. Not in a sad way, just in a private way. Like when you're reading a really good book and you don't want to talk about it yet, because talking about it makes it less yours somehow. And life kept happening around me. My sister got engaged that year. The whole family went to a steakhouse to celebrate. My cousin ordered a bottle of wine that cost more than my dividend made that entire month, and toasted to the fact that he'd just leased a new BMW. And everyone clapped and said congratulations, and I ordered water and ate my steak and smiled. And on the drive home, my girlfriend asked if I was okay, because I'd been quiet, and I said, "Yeah, I'm just thinking," and she held my hand. At the red light, and I felt something I didn't have a word for yet. Something like being ahead. Not ahead of my cousin specifically. Not competitive. Just ahead of where I was supposed to be according to the timeline everyone else seemed to be following. And I kept adding, kept reinvesting, kept not touching it. And by 32, I hit $100,000. 6 figures. The number my dad used to talk about like it was a finish line. And it wasn't a finish line. It didn't feel the way I thought it would feel. There was no confetti, no ceremony. Just a Tuesday evening where I checked my account, and the number started with a 1 and had 5 zeros after it. And $100,000 at 4% pays $4,000 a year, which is a full year of groceries for one person, 12 months of bread and eggs and chicken and coffee and the occasional treat. All of it covered by money that came from ownership and not from ours. And I went to Whole Foods that Saturday, which I know is a cliche, but stay with me. And I walked through the produce section with this thought running in the background of my mind that everything in my cart was being paid for by my portfolio, not this specific shopping trip, but over the course of a year. And I laughed a little in the produce aisle, and a woman next to me gave me a look, and I did not explain myself. And that same month, a friend from college texted me, "Marcus, good guy, smart guy." And he said he'd found something, a stock with a 12% dividend yield, paid monthly. And he did the math for me right there in the text. Hey, how 12% on $100,000 is $12,000 a year. Triple what I was making. And I opened the chart on my laptop, and yes, the yield was real, but the stock had dropped 40% in the past 2 years, and I knew immediately what I was looking at, a yield trap. The dividend looks enormous because the price has collapsed. The company is essentially paying out money it doesn't really have. The dividend will get cut. The price will keep falling. And you'll lose far more than you ever collected. And I texted Marcus back and told him to be careful, and he sent me a laughing emoji and bought $10,000 of it that night. And 6 months later, the dividend got cut in half, and the stock dropped another 30%. And Marcus stopped bringing it up, and I kept my boring ETF, and kept getting my $4,000 a year, and kept walking through Whole Foods on Saturdays, and the rule I learned from that moment is simple. If the yield looks too good to be true, it is,